Thank you very much. Welcome to this year's Kinmonth Lecture. This is one of the highest honours that the Vascular Society can confer. It is actually a gift of the Royal College of Surgeons of England to the Vascular Society, and it signifies the close working relationships between those two organisations. To that end, the lecturer is asked to wear, for the purpose of their lecture, the gown of the English College. The lecture remembers the life and works of John Kinmonth. He was a pioneering vascular surgeon. He was Professor of Surgery at St Thomas's Hospital, and he made many very important contributions to vascular surgery, including his seminal work on the lymphatics. This year's lecturer is somebody who will be very well known to many of you, Miss Hannah Travers. She was a West Midlands trainee, and in that role played an important role in the workings of the Rouleau Club, held many offices there, and went on to be the Rouleau Club president. That gave her a seat on the Vascular Society Council, and I know that she embraced the work of the council wholeheartedly, and she made many contributions, including, as you heard this morning, one of the episodes of the curriculum rewrite. Since then, she's gone on to be a consultant vascular surgeon in Exeter. She's got a very busy workload, and I know that she's embracing other things. So, for example, she is their lead for their new hybrid theatre. She's passionate about education and training, and the title of her lecture is UK Vascular Surgery, Training, the Challenges and the Solutions. So Hannah, please come and join me on the stage. I'd be grateful if you could welcome, in the usual way, the 2025 Kinmonth Lecturer, Hannah Travers.
Good afternoon. Thank you for inviting me to give the 2025 Kinmonth Lecture on UK vascular surgical training, challenges and solutions. It is an honour and a privilege. I am not an educational or training expert. I am not a professor in this subject. I am not going to stand here and present the perfect training programme with all the answers. However, I was the SAC representative for 4 years, the Rouleau Club president, and I was co-author of the 2021 version of the vascular curriculum. But most importantly, I have the lived experience, as I'm sure many of you do, of the challenges one can face during training. I have been a consultant for 3 years, and I have insight into some of the deficiencies of training and the challenges of transitioning to becoming a consultant. There are so many things that I could talk about, but I only have half an hour. So I'm going to give you an overview of what I see the main challenges to be. I hope by the end of this lecture, I will have raised awareness and given some food for thought as to the challenges and some potential solutions. My ethos has always been that you can't complain about a facility, system, or process unless you are prepared to put your head above the parapet and try and change it. And I would challenge each of you sitting here listening, whatever your role in vascular surgical training, be it Dean, Head of School, SAC member, TPD, trainer or trainee, to see what you can do to try and change the system. So what is training? The Oxford Dictionary has its definition: the process of learning the skills you need to do a particular job or activity. And Google and AI, as we've heard this morning, expand on this, giving a myriad of definitions. Training can be considered skill-focused or goal-focused. So what are we training for? We have the curriculum, which is the framework for vascular surgical training in the UK, and it states in its introduction to the level of independent practice in vascular surgery. And it clearly outlines the professional values and behaviours, professional skills and knowledge expected of all doctors, and encompasses these together in the capabilities in practice, against which trainees are assessed and are expected to perform at the level of a day one consultant. But in addition to demonstrating these capabilities, there are all the specifics to vascular surgery, which trainees must demonstrate to support their achievement of the GPCs and the capabilities in practice. So, there are the obvious challenges and recurring themes, some of which are not specific to vascular surgery and could be addressed at a national level. Firstly, location. Where do you live in relation to the deanery and the hospitals you have to rotate through? 205 miles between Truro and Gloucester. Even living centrally, that's 200 miles round trip a day. Other specialties have adopted various strategies for telling trainees where they are going to be for the various phases of their training. Makes planning and choosing where you will live that little bit easier. Secondly, identity. The HR hoops that have to be jumped through every time you rotate to a new trust. The selection of the documents I had to produce every time I rotated. Oh, and those documents have to be provided in person before you start in a new trust, whilst working shifts in a trust potentially 205 miles away. With electronic patient records and NHS apps, it must be feasible to have all the HR required information stored in one place, linked to a trainee's GMC number, with a photo that doesn't require producing 3 forms of ID, vaccination records and immunisation status, and the name of your mother's first pet to confirm who you are and that you're safe to work. The government have digital ID checks in place for all major services. NHS Business Service Authority have the electronic staff record. Would an extension of this be feasible? With the state of digital advancement, this cannot be beyond the realms of possibility. Alternatively, mandate all deaneries for all specialties adopt the lead employee approach. The lead employer model is to provide a single employer for doctors and dentists in training for the entirety of their training programme. The solution to the HR bureaucracy is out there. We just haven't adopted it yet. And that's where the postcode lottery comes in. One would assume that training and the assessment process is standardised across the country. It isn't. Where you train will determine the techniques you see, the pathologies you treat, and your exposure to certain conditions. How can we expect trainees to meet their requirements for treating superficial venous disease when it isn't commissioned in some ICBs? How do you train in renal access when not all vascular units provide this? Your deanery will determine your ARCP process, whether you have a lead employer or not, and so how many HR hoops you have to jump through each year. Your access to regional training programmes and study leave and budget. They will provide your gatekeepers, whether you can take advantage of that OOP, OOPC, OOPT, or that interdeanery transfer. This isn't an isolated issue to vascular surgery. So is this information readily available to trainees when applying for numbers? Or have we bred a culture of being so grateful to get a number that it doesn't matter where it is and what that training will be like? Do we need to compile an A to Z of deaneries and vascular centres, detailing the ratios of trainees to trainers, the services commissioned and provided at various hospitals, how the hub and spoke models work, operative numbers? Is this a solution so that at least trainees are aware of the opportunities that will be available to them? Will help them plan? Then, there are more specific issues to vascular surgery, with 2 big sticking points. PPE for interventional work and radiation safety. It makes me cross that this is still even an issue. This is a health and safety matter. Trust should be adhering to guidance and should have suitable numbers and sizes of leads to protect all staff, including trainees, adequately. The same for lead glasses. The problem is they don't. But actually, trusts need to be held to account. We need to drive a culture that is an absolute requirement. And we, as consultants, need to ensure that our trainees have adequate radiation protection equipment provided by the trust in which they are working. It is a legal requirement. Access to IR training is another recurring theme, but there are excellent models around the country of collaborative training, and we as consultants need to lead by example and harness that collaboration. Increasing numbers of vascular surgeons are trained in intervention, and as these numbers increase, opportunities for our trainees should also increase. But I wonder, of the cohorts of new consultants who have been appointed in the last 6 years, since the first 11 in 2019, how many actually have independent peripheral interventional lists? How many have regular theatre lists in a hybrid theatre? Are we expecting too much of our trainees? Is it necessary for everyone to be independent in interventional techniques? None of these challenges are insurmountable. There are solutions demonstrated in pockets around the country, solutions that could be adopted nationwide. Now just humour me a moment. Can everyone in the room please stand up? Briefly stretch. Now, sit down if during your training for your current role, you've bought or sold a house, you've got married or are planning a wedding, you've become a parent, you've suffered a bereavement, you have caring responsibilities for a parent, relative, dependent. There's only a few still standing. You're either too young or it hasn't happened yet, but you can sit down now. We ask all of this of trainees at a time in their lives when major life events are happening, at an age where peers are getting married, buying houses, having babies, and trainees are trying to do those things too, whilst navigating the training programme and all its challenges. Try organising childcare around a surgical hours when you live 100 miles from your place of work. Now think about the other issues any of us could face. Pregnancy loss, the need for fertility treatments, premature birth of a child with ill health or disability, a child with additional educational needs or neurodiversity, discovering you are neurodivergent, death of a family member, our own ill health, a breakdown of a relationship, divorce. All these things happen to trainees too, and they will impact on their training. Trainees are not clones on a conveyor belt. They don't all fit the mould. We are who we are. We are all individuals. Life for one can be very different from life for another. Yet we are all vascular surgeons, and there is the fundamental challenge in UK vascular surgical training. One size doesn't fit all. Whose career path actually looks like the BMA guidance, or as ISCP suggests? 10 years from graduation to consultant posts? Even from being appointed an NTN to becoming a consultant? 6 years? Really? Well, my training pathway certainly didn't look like that. And neither do my peers. And neither did the consultants, professors and presidents who went before us. Now let me take you back for a moment. Training is designed to produce a person capable of safely and effectively performing the role of a first aid consultant surgeon. But what does that actually mean? Now, I don't know about you, but my first day as a consultant surgeon was spent in corporate induction learning new IT systems. Nothing clinical about it. What is independent practice in vascular surgery? What is the level of a day one consultant? I don't agree that these two things are the same, and I don't agree that they are universally applicable across the country. Not anymore. They can't be. Everyone here will have a different job plan, different roles and responsibilities, different on-call burdens, see different patterns of disease. But remember the definition of training, learning the skills you need to do a particular job. And the basics of being a consultant vascular surgeon are the same, but the jobs are very different. Think about teacher training. The same principle applies. Private all-girls school, very different to a co-ed state comprehensive. You just have to look at NVR numbers and model health data to see the difference in operative numbers and range of procedures to realise that day one consultant practice in a district general hospital will be very different from day one consultant practice in a large tertiary centre. And consultant jobs now are very different to when the training programme started. The experience of trainees now is very different from that of our predecessors. I was told by one of my previous trainers that they had done 100 open aneurysms repairs on their own as a senior registrar before even becoming a consultant. This will never be the case for me as a consultant, or the generation of surgeons who come behind me, not least because of the screening programme and the drop in AAA numbers, but it is also because of the increase in dual consultant operating. The workplace is changing. The workforce is changing. The population is changing. The training opportunities are changing. And we need to adapt the training programme and its delivery to take account of these changes. We've heard this morning about removing general surgery aspects of the curriculum. We've heard about simulation. The online learning platforms are growing with Oxford Collaterals and Vortex. We need to keep adapting. But the curriculum actually defines the purpose of training further. The purpose of the curriculum is to produce, at certification, competent doctors able to deliver excellent outcomes for patients as consultant vascular surgeons in the UK. Working in the UK means working in the NHS. And as we all know, the NHS is not straightforward. Troubled, to say the least. Some may say no longer fit for purpose. But the fact remains we are working within the NHS, and the NHS is changing. Training prepares you for clinical aspect of work, how to manage patients, how to operate. You can do everything you need for the SIPs. You have the skills for GCP. You leave training as a technically skilled decision maker, but does it really prepare you for working as a consultant in the NHS? I'm not sure it does, not in the early days. The massive learning curve of dealing with admin staff, managing trainees, managing waiting lists, juggling the endless admin, dealing with complaints, dealing with conflict, dealing with colleagues, bad outcomes, patient deaths, the weird and wonderful rare conditions you've only read about in textbooks but now have to manage. Maybe I was naive, but I'm sure I wasn't the only one. I thought becoming a consultant was it. I'd reached the goal. Years of training. The light at the end of the tunnel. Autonomy. Certainty. I was ready. But when I CCT'd, was I really ready? In hindsight, I don't think I really was. I really struggled. I felt lost. Was this it? A lot less operating and a lot of other non-clinical stuff. And the Aspire Early Years Consultant course was developed to help fill this gap, and I would highly recommend it to all consultants in their first 3 years out of training. However, the idea came to fruition because of a network, a phone-a-friend connection who phoned their friends. I consider myself to be a relatively well-connected vascular surgeon. I've trained in different deaneries, I've held national roles with Rulu Club and SCSAC, and have a pretty good network of phone-a-friend options. Do all new consultants have this network? What do you do with those rarer cases? Are you able to deliver excellent patient outcomes for diseases you've never seen in training and only read about in books? Do we know nationally where the centres of excellence are for patients with complex or rare conditions? FMD, Marfans, MALS. Would a peer-reviewed and accredited vascular directory of subspecialist services and centres of excellence improve patient outcomes in these rarer disorders? A UK Yellow Pages of vascular surgery? Or map it together with the deanery guide? And then how do you build resilience around these services? What's the succession plan? Who are you going to train? Trainees or new consultants? How is the knowledge and experience of our senior colleagues shared with the new generation? And we talk about generations. We have the baby boomers, Generation X, millennials, Gen Z, and we're all guilty of labelling these generations. The bias, the unconscious bias, the stereotypes. I'm already guilty of the "when I was a registrar" comments, and I'm only 3 years out. The term dinosaur gets used. The term snowflake gets used. Is it okay to refer to our colleagues as either of these things? Isn't it derogatory? Degrading? You can't choose when you were born or when you trained. Age is a protected characteristic. Each of these generations have talked about work-life balance, and I used to think that balance meant equilibrium, a 50-50 split. But it isn't a balance, it's an integration. I don't think vascular surgery is a job you can leave at the front door of the hospital. Well, I certainly can't. Vascular surgery is a vocation, a way of life. But it isn't all there is in life. We need boundaries. I won't do evening meetings at the moment. I haven't since I became a consultant, and I won't until my children are older. We need our boundaries to maintain our own health and well-being, There is a life outside of vascular surgery, and it is possible to integrate the two. I open water swim and run for my sanity. My children have decided swimming is their thing. Most of this talk was written poolside at swimming galas, paused for their heats, 30 seconds to 5 minutes, and then back to it. It's not always easy, but it's possible. But maybe the younger generations have a better sense of integration, a better sense of balance. Maybe burnout in future trainees will be less than our predecessors. Maybe vascular trainees and consultants of the future won't need to wear the mask, looking like a swan on the surface and frantically paddling underneath, smiling and being empathetic to others when all you want to do is cry, maintaining the masquerade, putting on your game face. We all have our own demons. Standing up here today, I've had to face my biggest demon, podium speaking and imposter phenomenon. And we've all done it, pretending everything is okay when it's really not, because that's how we think we should behave. And there is the biggest challenge of them all. Culture, the driving force behind all the issues I've talked about and more. And credit where credit is due. The Vascular Society will not tolerate bullying, undermining, and harassment. They will not tolerate sexual misconduct in the workplace. They have taken the first step to change the culture, and it is working. There wasn't a baby in sight when I first came to vascular surgery, the Vascular Society meeting in 2013, and I was scared to tell my trainer that I was pregnant. The culture now is very different to the culture when I started vascular training 12 years ago. But the Vascular Society aren't the ones who can make the change. Do any of you know who this man is? I didn't think you would. It's Craig Kalberger, a Canadian entrepreneur and founder of the charity Free the Children, now We. Now, I went to a state comprehensive school. There were 1,800 pupils in that school, and don't ask me how, but we had whole school assemblies every week. And there are 2 assemblies that have stayed with me. One was about how life is like an orange. You can peel it and eat it, it's gone. Or you can zest it, squeeze it, drink the juice, eat the pulp, plant the seeds and grow more oranges. A lot like training. The more effort you put in, the more you will get out of it. The other was delivered by a 16-year-old Craig Kalberger, who brought a decibel meter with him. He stood in the assembly hall and asked the person sitting next to him to say, "I'm only one person, what difference can I make?" Then he asked the front row to say the statement, and the lights on the decibel meter started to light up. Then the whole of Year 7 joined in, and Year 8, Year 9, and so forth, until the whole school was shouting at the top of their voices, "I'm only one person, what difference can I make?" And the decibel meter was flashing like a Christmas tree and the windows were rattling. He empowered every child in that school hall. He showed them they could make a difference. Lots of little changes by individuals can change the culture. So, what are the solutions to the challenges in the UK vascular training programme? We all are. It's up to each and every one of us to change the culture, to not tolerate bullying, to call out sexual misconduct, to allow colleagues and trainees to take off the mask, to be human. There are some material solutions to some of the challenges. Location, tell trainees where they will be based for the various phases of their training. Give them some certainty. The HR hoops, adopt lead employer models or develop a trainee passport. The postcode lottery, deanery and specialist services directory. Radiation protection, change the culture. Find the RPA, find the RPS. Escalate, don't take no for an answer. IR training, change the culture in your hospital. Learn from examples of good collaborative teaching. Finally, one size doesn't fit all, and so I propose PTPs, personalised training programmes, a training programme bespoke to the individual, their family circumstances, their neurodiversity, their interests, their endgame. Now, I don't know about all of you, but I love a plan. A plan when I operate, a plan for a party, a plan for my day. And you all know the 6 Ps. This applies to training too. And I'm amazed by the number of trainees who don't have a plan, don't know what they want to do, where they want to be. And this is where the value of coaching and mentoring comes in, not just as a consultant, but at the beginning of their training journey. Right at the start, establish the trainee's plan, a career plan, a life plan. What do they want? What does their end game look like? Allow the trainee to take off their mask and see the whole person, and not just the vascular surgeon. Have a plan, but be prepared to change that plan. As we all know too well, in vascular surgery, not all plans work out. You need plan B and C. You need to adapt, and so adapt the PTP as the trainees need change. Allow them to feel some certainty. Within rotations, give trainees job plans so they aren't always expecting to be in theatre. Timetable them to endovascular lists, to clinic. Give them time to do their portfolio. Perhaps work flexibly from home. Allow them autonomy to train smart and make the most of opportunities available to them. Allow them to move between deaneries for periods if that's what their training needs require. People regularly ask me how I did it. 3 children, SAC role, RULU president, vascular consultant job in the place I wanted it. It wasn't by chance. I had a career plan. We had a life plan. I unknowingly made my own PTP at a time when this wasn't how it was done. With a supportive, forward-thinking TPD, with a goal, with an end game in sight. I knew the job I wanted. I knew what I needed to do to get there. I worked out how long I would take on mat leave, what percentages at less than full time I would work. I trained smartly and flexibly to reach my goals, with the support from my TPD, who encouraged me to take my baby to training days, to VS, who acknowledged travelling to Stoke and Shrewsbury were not conducive with where I lived in South Birmingham, with my husband's job and having children. And each time another child came along, we adapted accordingly to my training needs. And I don't think it was too challenging to achieve, was it, Andy? But there were challenges and things that frustrated me along the way, times I hid behind the mask, but I wanted to make it easier for those that followed behind me. So I put my head above the parapet and stood for SAC rep and rocked the boat a little bit. The Vascular Society is a very different entity to the one I joined 12 years ago, epitomised by Professor Ian Chetter asking me to give this lecture on this topic. So thank you. So my suggestions for the future and solutions to the challenges: ongoing culture change, adaptability, innovation, collaboration, and personalisation. Remember, you are one person, but you can make a difference. Thank you.
Thank you, Hannah. As I think we'd all agree, a hugely insightful and thought-provoking Kinmonth Lecture, as I knew it would be. We traditionally don't have any questions at the Kinmonth Lecture, so all it remains for me to do is give Hannah her John Kinmonth Medal and my thanks for undertaking such a phenomenal lecture. Thank you.